Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. My guest today is Kate Saynor. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. It's Monday. Monday can be a good day.
Yes. Start the week off in the right way.
Yeah.
No, so brilliant. Thanks very much for your time. It's good to A, meet you, and B, be able to get you on here and pick your brains as a fellow winner of the PT of the year.
Wow.
I've spoken to a couple of others who have achieved the same thing. It's a great accolade to have under your belt, and one that I guess you must be pretty proud of.
I am. It was good. It was kind of like nice for somebody to kind of say, yeah, you're kind of doing what you should be doing, and that's really good.
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah.
ask me, am I going to apply again? And it's a lot of work. And I kind of feel, well, I could, but is that like going, oh, am I still good enough? Do I need someone else to tell me that? So I don't know, but it was a really good experience. I highly recommend going for those things because you learn so much about yourself, and you find yourself picking up on bits that you go, oh, I could probably just improve on that bit, and maybe just kind of up that area a notch. So it was really worthwhile. Yeah.
Fantastic. That was my next question. So you've answered you've answered both of them in one. So thank you. Perfect.
Oh, my pleasure.
Saving me talking. Yeah, I think people should definitely put themselves through it. It's a great process to experience. And yes, you're right. You learn a lot about yourself, but also it's a bit of an audit as well, isn't it?
Exactly that. And I
Yeah.
found some of the things really useful that were jobs on my to-do list that I was like, you know what? That's the motivation I needed to get it done. And then it
Yes.
becomes a bit of a streamlined part of your business. So
Yes.
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, brilliant. So where are you based? So your business is My Rehab Fitness.
It is. It was sort of two businesses. It's my Rehab Fitness is my personal training business because I deal with, I think when I think about my clients, they're mostly between 30 and 75, and most of them have got something that we need to work around or work with, depending on where they are and how bad it is. So that's the PT side of things. And I've toyed with, do I expand that up into group PT, that whole 4-to-1 person? I probably need a bigger space, but I like the intimacy of 1-to-1. I like really getting to know them and the motivators. So the other part of the business is Strong Fit Women Online, and that's my online group stuff that allowed me to strength train the women that were in my Pilates classes that wanted to, like, do you do strength training classes? And I had no time in the evenings because I'd had 2 young kiddies and there were no spots in PT. So I just started that at either end of the day where I did have a spot that I could do from home. So those are kind of the two parts of the business, I suppose.
Brilliant. Yeah, good. And I see you're into your water sports as well.
Yes, wakeboarding, and that's my wakeboard that I need to be out on more. There's a lot of face planting, and I do video those bits, and people are like, oh, it's good to hear, that you're not actually really that great at it. I'm not at all.
I think I saw a photo of I think it was Facebook or somewhere where you were at the garage filling up, and the boat was there. I was like, oh, okay, you're proper water. When you've got a boat like that, that's proper water
that's
sports.
the recent thing.
You've been doing it a while, and you're not dabbling.
Yeah. So I mean, we are sort of very watery people. We're based on the North Shore in Auckland. So I mean, I've been on the water all my life. At my first World Championships was the Sailing World Championships that I actually represented Great Britain at in the dinghies. I used to live in Dubai, and so I used to sail through the week, at the weekend, scuba dive, got my powerboat course, so I know how to drive boats. I'm no expert, but I'm comfortable, towing people for wakeboarding and all that kind of stuff. So and my husband's a boat builder and a boat engineer, so we've kind of, it makes it easy. Because what is it they say with boats, BOAT, bring on another 1,000, Luckily he's in the right business. So it just, we're like, we've got the kids, we buy them enough toys. How about something for the grown-ups?
Absolutely. And they'll probably, if they like that stuff, they'll start doing it themselves as well and join in, right?
Yeah, well, my kids do. We've had the kiddie little wakeboard, and they see it, it's good for them to see that kind of stuff. But I find as adults, and I talk to my clients a lot about this, that we get nervous of our bodies, and the reason, one of the messages that I always do with my clients is about building a body that is strong enough and fit enough, so that when someone says, hey, do you want to come and go wakeboarding, or do you want to go rock climbing, or do you want to go for a trek, you don't have to think about whether your body is strong enough. You can just go, do I want to? So that's one of the things that we get to do, and by going wakeboarding, it's a skill that I am not very good at. And so it challenges me, and it makes you forget everything else. I used to do Olympic weightlifting, and that was my kind of lose myself moment. And now I've done that, I've moved on to something else. So it gives me that same feeling that I used to like when I was lifting.
Yes, you obviously like a bit of competition, having sailed and lifted some heavy stuff in serious competition. So if my notes are correct, you were at the Commonwealth Games 3 times. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So women were first allowed to compete in Olympic weightlifting in 2002. Before that, it was only men. So that was my first Commonwealth Games. And then I did Manchester. No, that was Manchester. Then I did Melbourne in 2006. And then I did Delhi for New Zealand in 2010. And that's when I retired.
Okay. Wow.
Which was 9 years this month, actually. Yeah.
All right. Congrats.
Yeah.
What did you learn through that process? Obviously, you've been able to incorporate some of that into your business in terms of, the skills that you bring from that.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 main passions are lifting weights and Pilates. And I kind of had both going. The Pilates is a sort of an injury prevention mechanism. And just, even just once a week, it's such a great form of complementary exercise. And I do find a lot of Pilates instructors are just that way. And I think people find it really unusual, the mix of that kind of real raw. The gyms I used to train in were spit and sawdust gyms. I might have been the only girl in there. There was a lot of bad languages. They were not pretty. And Pilates, they're kind of opposites in some ways, but they really complement each other. So I forgot what your question was now.
I guess the learning that's come from being a competitor, and the skills.
For me, I did a blog article on it years ago. I don't have many. I don't think I've even got a blog page on my website anymore. And it was about how weightlifting for me is not a sport, it's a personality. And it really was that. It was one of the things it did when I became really good at it, was it meant that it gave me confidence in other things. It was, it's okay to try and not fail, because, hey, I'm really good at weightlifting, which was quite nice. But the discipline and that mental challenge of when you don't feel like training, but you need to, is how you're going to make this work for you. The mindset about being calm off the platform, but revving yourself up when you needed to on the platform. And even now, it sort of, we did a bit of mindset coaching and with a sports psychologist, and it was about lowering the heart rate. But then as soon as my foot touched the platform, we measured, my heart rate went up by 10 beats, just like that. And that kind of training. But some of the training that has transferred into client stuff that I do a lot of that resilience coaching. Okay, you're going to train. It's not a case of, am I going to train? Am I not going to train? It's how are we going to train today? If you're tired, what are the signs you're going to look for so you don't risk injury? Which was something I learned when I was weightlifting. And if I do see those signs, what am I going to do? And what's the goal of the session? So, for example, all the time, most of my clients, they struggle with busyness and tiredness. And it's like, okay, well, can you give me 10 minutes? What are we going to do with that 10 minutes? I'm thinking some of the ladies that are on my online group. And making the goal not about having the highest heart rate, it's can I increase my range of movement in this particular session? So I don't have to lift heavy and I don't have to go hard, but I'm still doing something really positive. And I think that's one thing sport teaches you, is to pick out those bits to make every session a bit of a win as you go through, so that you stay motivated and you don't beat yourself up too much.
I like that. That's great. You've got options there based on how you're coming into the session, and there's always kind of a positive feeling coming out. You get that dopamine hit.
Yeah, and we crave that, don't we? And if we can make that, I remember reading something about those that can maintain consistency. It's the immediate rewards. Telling somebody that in 6 months' time they're going to look a bit better and they're going to deadlift 100 kilos or whatever it is. That's kind of nice to get you in the gym, but when you're there, sometimes it's a little bit too far away. So being like, well,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to feel really chuffed with yourself, and how are you going to feel afterwards, and are you going to sleep better, are you going to be able to tell your mates what you did in your session, whatever it is, depending on the person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good. It's a great way of framing it. I'm really curious about some of the rehab stuff you do, and it kind of makes sense in your website in terms of the process that you follow. And the phrase that sort of stood out for me was this stability muscle activation via tubing. So can you kind of give us a bit of background into how that fits in and what it is?
Yeah, so to be honest, most of the PT, you'll have seen it before. It's probably just a fancy term. And that's the other thing I try and get rid of in the fitness industry is I think as
Jargon.
PTs, yeah, we like to try and impress with some jargon. I tend to use really layman's words, and, you know, as much as possible, so that if somebody else, some of my clients want to repeat it to their friends would understand it.
Yes.
So it's really just a fancy way of using resistance bands to help you stabilize better. So for example, when you do a glute bridge, the knees might wobble. You stick a resistance band around the thighs, they've got something to press against. And it not only that, it sends a message from the brain to the area you're trying to focus on about where they need to be. So I got a little bit of tubing. So I do, I had a guy who'd had a knee replacement. So we did some range of movement stuff, and we needed to get his range big enough so that he could climb into his car, because he does what do you call it, like racing, and he's got a roll cage, so he has to get into that, and he also had a motorbike. So we almost kind of got him on there with his good leg, and was like, okay, this is our target. And so we had to do some front foot elevated lunges. So imagine a stationary lunge, but you've got a little bit more travel forward until the knee is in line with the toe, and then drop down to it. So just load up the thigh a bit more. We started with it really high to minimize the load. And as he got stronger, we slowly took it down. Now, to keep his knee stable, we used a resistance band, or I've got a little bit of tubing, and just pulled the knee across his body so that he had to work hard to pull it out, to keep that alignment. And sometimes when it's not a chronic thing, just a small niggle that only happens when they do particular exercises, you can use bands and things to stabilize the shoulder and the knees, and it can just take away the pain like that.
Brilliant. Yeah, and it's I guess reinforcing that neural pathway, isn't it, in terms of, like you said, it helps the brain connect to send the right signal, the right instruction as part of the bigger movement.
Yes. And it's really important as part of one of the things we do with the rehab course I did was go through a really thorough screening process. And people ask me, and I think clients maybe expect a bit too much sometimes of where I'm at with the skills of that. And I'll be like, if you're struggling with something day to day, that's physio stuff. Head over to a physio. PTs, you know, we follow on from physios, or we supply the strength training program to complement what they do. And I suppose I'm kind of a go between the physios here, your average health and fitness instructor, and I'm sort of maybe a little bit bridging that gap. And that's what the course teaches you.
That's brilliant. Do you recommend something like that? Was it a good course? Is it somewhere you'd send other people?
Yeah, I do. It was a really, really good course. I think it was helped by the fact that the Pilates training I do, the work as an athlete saw me go through a lot of physio appointments myself, but also go along to physios with physio appointments with some of my training buddies. So I had a lot of contact. So the concept of it wasn't new, but it really helped. And I'd also sort of helped develop some courses with the training provider in the UK on back care and things like that. So it sort of fitted where I was. But yeah, I think everybody who was on the course found it really helpful, because most people have got a few aches and pains these days, and it's knowing when to work around them and the ones you can work with.
And is that something is it in person in New Zealand, or is it online because it's in the UK?
No, it was actually a course with the rehab trainer in Australia. So it wasn't a course I did here. It was a 2-day course. And I've done some sort of further training with them as well. I think they do some online options. I think it was really good. And if people don't go through that, then they can start going along to physio appointments with their clients to get a feel. I often
Yes.
do that as a bit of a way of upskilling. And it means that then you get that conversation with the PT, with the physio going as well.
Definitely, it builds that relationship, but it shows that you care as well, doesn't it? The fact that you want to be there and assist. Yeah. It's good. So, talked about muscle stability or body stability. How about business stability? You mentioned that before, and that's something that I guess is probably a really useful thing to talk about today. You've structured your business in a particular way that I guess helps you minimize the lows with cancellations and all those sorts of things. You've got your online stuff going. What things have you done that's helped you, I guess, improve that business stability over the years?
Firstly, and it is really important because when I used to work as a gym manager, you'd see a lot of PTs come through and they give themselves a year and then everything would have stopped and then they can't pick up the client bases and then they're like, you know what, I'm going to go back and do something else now. And it's such a shame because so many of them would have been really great PTs. For me, I always kept a part-time job at the same time. So I kept that within the fitness industry. So initially I was just helping with distance learning for a company in the UK, the training provider I ended up working for, and just did distance learning support 20 hours a week and then PT'd around that. And then I did some tutoring for them, teaching and assessing PT courses. And so that would give you, a bit of a base level income. And then you'd work out how many clients can I fit in. For each client that I take now, it takes me 45 minutes for a session, but I block out in my diary the equivalent of an hour and a half because of the programming, the contact. I sort of deal with packages rather than single sessions. So it's everything. And if they might need something, I might be analysing a food diary or what have you. So I know if I've got 20 hours a week left, how many PT clients I can put in.
Sure.
So that was one thing. And then as the business grew and I wanted to leave the UK company, because I still worked for them when I was out here doing their e-learning, I set up my online group, Strong Fit Women, and had a goal income to replace that. So that now gives me a steady income, because if one person cancels, it's $40 that month. It's not massive.
Sure.
My Pilates classes that I run as well, they pay in blocks per term. So I know that that's given me a bit of a stability, so that then the fluctuations in PT don't have quite such a big impact on my income. And things like just monitoring your numbers. I know that 20% of clients are going to cancel each week. So I'll book in a few extra and occasionally have a really busy week. But it means that then I know what my good weeks are and what my what my busy weeks are, and then what my quiet weeks are going to be at the most.
Smart. I guess having money coming from different parts of the business is good, as that helps sort of spread the risk. You haven't got too many eggs in one basket, and that's a good model. So you do the package thing as well. So if someone comes on as an individual client, does that package have a time frame as well?
So most people book with me for 10 or 12 weeks and they pay up front for that. And I've spoken to a few people recently who just wanted advice about, well, they wanted to book with me, but I've got a bit of a waiting list at the moment, which is lovely. But I said, it's going to be a good 6 months before you can start. It'd be a bit of a shame for you to lose that motivation. So here, if you're going to look for a PT, these are the things to look for. And I said, if they don't offer a block booking, ask them, can I pay you for 6 weeks? I said, because once you start that, if you've paid up front for at least 6 weeks, you're going to be committed. You're not going to have that question every week, oh, is this really working? Is it not? And because you need at least 6 weeks to give them a chance to do their job. So I would always recommend that clients with me pay up front for that, for their benefit as much as the stability of my income. And people are happy to. And as long as you outline what they're going to get. And for me, they get their programming. It's not just a single session. They get in between session support. They get the program tweaks. They get extra behavior change coaching, resources if they need it. So it's pretty much, what do you want to achieve? This is how long you need. by the end of that 10 to 12 weeks, hopefully I've taught them enough that they don't need me, but if they want me after that, they can rebook. And most people, will stay 6 months to 12 months.
Great. Fantastic. That's really what you want, isn't it? Retention rather than having to re-recruit absolutely everybody each time.
Yeah. And having a waiting list is really helpful when people come in. I always, if I'm full, I'll always still take the time to have that conversation with people, if nothing else, to give them a next step. Some of them will jump into my online group as a way to keep moving until they can get a one-to-one spot with me.
Yeah.
And I'll ask them on the phone, would you be prepared to jump into a cancellation? So on a Thursday each week, I'll see who's away for business or who's not been well, and then quickly phone around and fill those spots.
Cool. Okay.
Which is great, because it means people get a bit of a head start, and you get a feel about whether that person's going to want to hang about for that spot when one comes up.
I think that paying up front thing is such a powerful thing, because like you say, there's a commitment mentally, but there's also commitment financially, which kind of reinforces the decision. Whereas if it's, as you say, week to week, it's like, may not, if you're not quite feeling enthused enough as much as you were the previous week, then it's so much easier to back out and have 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
I agree. I totally agree.
It's a good move, and I think that's probably one that I'll be putting in the show notes as a reminder.
Yeah.
I think you touched briefly on niche and how, there seems to be the thing that everybody gets told to do, but isn't necessarily the right thing to do straight away. What would be your, I guess, guidance for those new people that might be just starting out and not knowing exactly who to work with or how to do it?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of, like you say, people saying, find your niche, market to your niche. And I actually think the complete opposite when you first start. Train anybody that will have you.
Yeah.
Learn from them and see it as a bit of a collaborative relationship. I would say to people when I'm working, I know exercises, you know you. Don't let me push you into something that doesn't feel right. Speak up. I can tell you if your body's up for it and if you just need to toughen up, but tell me, because I can just give you something else. There's too many exercises in the world for people to be spending too long doing stuff that just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So the niche wise, get to know different bodies. You might find that the people that you thought you wanted to train are not really the ones that you're best suited to. And the skills will develop that way. So when I first started, I spent a lot of time just working with people that were kind of like me. And I think that's often a lot of the time where people do. They were people of similar age with similar interests, because that's what's piqued your interest. So often we know mostly about that. Excuse me.
All good.
And then I went into the older adults. I did GP exercise referral course, and to be honest, I think that's one of my favorite groups.
Okay.
And that's what got my interest into, I suppose, special populations. The over 70s, a lot of functional exercise, but still strength training and educating them of the importance of that. And then I went into moving with a few more athletes, and people were like, after weightlifting, you're going to go into coaching and coaching athletes. And to be honest, it doesn't interest me. I would rather coach somebody new and show them the joy of a dumbbell snatch and that they can dumbbell clean and press, and show them why that helps them when they're lugging stuff in the garden, and be training athletes there. And that would not have been the case maybe 20 years ago. So I would say try everything, and people will tell you, you're really good with that group, and that was, and you'll see where you get the most success. The people I am rubbish at are the people that maybe just want to lose a bit of weight, and that's it. I can get them strong, I can get them fitter, but complete body transformations, I think it's because that's not where my heart is. Looking a certain way for exercise isn't really my jam.
Fair enough.
I stay away from that and refer them on.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. It's if it's not challenging the grey stuff, if there aren't a few things that you've got to work on as well as sort of the general movements, it's not challenging your own, I guess, skills and knowledge and pushing you to be better. When it's a real plain vanilla type, client.
And I think it's also where your values are. For me, I like to exercise so that my body can do really cool stuff. I really like it if my body can do stuff that other people that are sort of like me can't do. You know, it's the show off. You don't do stand on a stage, Commonwealth Games and all that stuff
Yeah.
if you're not a little bit of a show off. So I quite like that, and it looks a certain way because of the training I do. I don't train to look a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was weightlifting, my legs were twice the size. I had big traps, smaller waist. When I've started running, everything leans down and the body shape just changes based on the training. And so to train somebody that just wants to look a certain way, it's just not where my passion is. It's not the purpose of exercise in my eyes. It doesn't mean I think it's wrong, just I can't get excited by it. And if I'm not excited, they're gonna not have much success. So
yeah. I guess you must do a bit of screening up front with inquiries to make sure that there's that good fit then when it's quite important to you.
Yeah, I do. I have a good probably a good 20 minutes on the phone, and I guess I just start, tell me what you're looking for, and I'll listen and tell you if I think I can help and how. And I'll pretty much listen and give them a bit of a roadmap and say, well, if we start training, here's what I think I could do to help. These skills will help with this. I'm not really very specialized in that bit. I can offer this amount of advice, but if you want more, we might need to look at some help. Here's what we could do, and just kind of address the things that they're looking for and be really open about, these are the bits you'll get, these are the bits that I'll probably, you know, fall a bit short on, and where do you want to go? And people are like, no, that sounds great.
That's good. I think it's being really honest as well, rather than trying to, you know, grab everybody that's available. There's enough for everyone to go around, isn't it? It's just about being honest and staying in the lane that you're most interested in.
Yeah, and then you have more success through it. And most of the time in those conversations, people will book and just get really excited because they can see that the roadmap ahead.
Absolutely. It's good. I like that. It's important to do. I think one of the things that I found when, you know, sort of finding that sweet spot in terms of clients was my energy levels during and after the session. You know, some sessions you'd just be fizzing afterwards, and some you'd just be flat. And then when you reflect, it's like, I think I prefer working with these people than these people, you know, and so that directs your attention to keep doing that thing.
Yeah, that's true. And I think as your skills change and your life stage changes, you know, now I've had 2 kids, I find a lot of mums want to come and train with me. Before, well, even when I was having kids, it used to be when I got to a certain age, I would get a lot of older guys that wanted to do strength training but didn't want to be taught by somebody that was an 18-year-old man that just looked stacked, because it just intimidated them, whereas it was a bit easier. They knew I knew my stuff because of the weightlifting background. So at one point that was about 80% of my client base. Then it changed to sort of women 50 to 60 going through menopause. Then it was pregnant. So it sort of goes through a few cycles, actually.
Yeah, it does. I chatted to a chiropractor in a previous episode, which will be coming out this week, I think, and the purpose of that was to sort of talk about this connection between, you know, PT and all the allied health professionals out there. Sounds like you've kind of got that one sussed. You talked about the GP referral program. Is that something you still do?
I make it known to the GPs in the area that I'm there. It was more something I did in the UK. So it's a specific course called GP exercise referrals. It was a massive course, actually. The exam was, you had to do a 16-week case study. You had to do an interview with them afterwards, like an oral exam, all written papers, multiple choice. Like there was just so much to it. So then the doctors would refer. It was government funded, and you would have to do an assessments and then report back because it was subsidized. So here it just means that I can work with people with medical issues and still follow that same protocol. But I do make contact with physios in the area. So I've been along, there's a really lovely guy up the road who one of my clients went to, and she's a chatty one. So he says, well, tell her to pop me a message. And he invited me in. I observed him with 2 sessions. I've been to him myself, so I know I can refer to him, and he passes on as well. I've got a few people that have been to the same surgeon, so I've made contact with him and said, hey, I think we know a lot of the same people. I'm here if you've got any questions. And if you see, I always say to them, if you see anything in my programming that is red flags, please pick me up on it, pop me a message, and we'll make some adjustments so that we're working together, and just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it's good. It's obviously good to build those relationships. It's all part of an ecosystem that our clients live in, isn't it? And if we can have a good connection with each other, then it just makes it more seamless for the client, and obviously puts them at the heart of the whole process.
I also find that as well, it helps you understand what they're trying to do. So I can't give physio exercises, but I can give strength training that supports that. And often when a client comes, they'll say, oh yeah, she said there was something going on with my shoulder and I need to do a little bit of external road, or whatever. They would use their own name for it. And I'm like, okay, they told you anything? Not. And it's sometimes quite tricky to get exactly what you need from your client. And if you're able to, I always would copy the client in, say, can I email your physio and just ask for that diagnosis and ask her what we should do and what we should avoid. And then you're really a lot more focused, a lot clearer on what's going on.
Yeah, it's good. It makes total sense. Yeah. So you've already dropped a few good knowledge bombs and some useful tips in there already, but are there any others that sort of you kind of live by or have experienced and gone, not going to do that one again? What would your top tips be?
I don't know really. It's funny, I always was previously really ambitious, and now I'm kind of just enjoying being exactly where I am and not burning out at the moment. And making time to do what I'm trying to teach people to do as well. So I think one of the things when you're running your own business is you often get all the shit and not the good stuff, unless you allow yourself the good stuff. So I purposely do things like go for a run during work time. Because that should be one of the luxuries, or book my hair appointment during work time. Otherwise you're having to work both ends of the day, do all the rubbish bits of having your own business where you're constantly on your mind, what can I do to improve, without the good stuff of being able to take time out. But what I realized, things like social media stuff, is I can throw out lots of information about you should be doing this and here's a tip on this, but actually what people are most interested in is, what do I do when, do I ever let my hair down? How fast do I go when I'm running? Do I ever spend a day in my slippers and not get dressed in my PJs? People seem, and I was like, but that doesn't really help you. And they're like, doesn't matter. I quite like to know that though. So I just started, every time I do a training session, take a quick pic and show them. And I did that. And one lady messaged me and said, I've just seen that and it made me want to go and do my workout. So I've just gone and done it. And I was like,
brilliant.
That worked.
Perfect. That's great.
So I guess I started just relaxing a bit more into it. Rather than worrying about what I should do, and just do the things that I enjoy, and anything I don't enjoy, I've started to just palm off onto other people. Gosh, this sounds awful, isn't it? You caught me on a Monday.
That's okay. But I think you're right, because, it's all about playing to your strengths, isn't it? If you spend a lot of your week doing the stuff you don't enjoy, they're not going to be great weeks. So if you can get to the point where you have a virtual assistant, or you've got, your accountant doing more things, or whatever it may be, there's a little bit of outlay for a whole lot of time and mental space that's going to put you in a better state, I reckon. The
hard part is trying to get there and justify that extra expense to you. And I think it's coming up with a strategy that you're comfortable with. So I guess my tip would be to think about, where would my ideal week be? And for me, it's to have my Monday off to do admin. So if I want a 3-day weekend, I can. And to book in things like this without worrying about how it's going to slot in. Have these certain number of clients, enough time for programming, work. Picture that week, and then work out your stages to get to there. How many PT clients do I need to have in order to be able to afford that extra help? I also make sure that I learn everything myself as well. I did do some of my own accounts, so that when my accountant's talking to me, I understand what he's saying. All the jobs my VA does, I've done. And when she gets a new one, I'm always just get a little bit involved initially, so that if she wasn't there, I kind of feel like I could still stand on my own 2 feet.
Absolutely. You've got to know the operations before you delegate the operations, haven't you? So, you're right. Totally. I think that's really good. I think, you've covered a hell of a lot there, and, keeping that balance for yourself and relaxing into it. I quite like that. I think I need a bit more of that myself. So,
We always worry, I think. Social media
mm,
doing amazing things for connecting PTs. I love watching some of them. And then other times, and I'll be honest, and I will look at them and be like, oh shit, I should be doing that, and I should be doing that. I don't know if any of the other PTs watching this get this, and you get this funny feeling in your body. And I think when I see that, I switch it off, because you can only do so much.
yeah,
Yes, a
yeah,
reel is great, and I could run weekend courses like someone else, write a course,
mm,
do a class, but we can't do everything. So
mm,
like you said, which ones fill you with energy and go, well,
mm,
that's what I do and
mm.
I enjoy it, and that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, I think we've probably gone further than on time than I thought we were going to do. So I should probably let you go and carry on with your admin and go and enjoy your run and a relaxed photo doing something fun. And thank you for your time. It's been really great catching up and picking your brains.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Oh, I've just pushed a button on my computer. There we
All
go.
good, all good. All right. Thanks, Kate. Speak soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.